If you haven't noticed, there are some serious issues in our profession, and in today's video, I'm going to break it down and talk about these issues. I'm Libby Rothschild, founder of Dietitian Boss, and in today's video, we're going to discuss some of the big topics and the issues facing the field of dietetics and what you can do about it as a dietitian. Now, if this video sounds like what you need to position yourself as an expert, I want you to hit subscribe because we release videos every Tuesday to keep you inspired, educated, and motivated to take action in your dietitian private practice. So let's first talk about the outlook of dietitians. Now, you might not know this, but the field of dietetics is growing by 11% every year, and that is more. That's a higher growth rate than similar professions. And what that means is that everybody wants to be a dietitian. Now, according to the Statistics of Labor and Bureau, 11% is a faster growth rate than for other professions. What this means is that there's a competitive landscape when it comes to 9-to-5 jobs. So if more positions don't open at hospitals, that means there's going to be fewer positions and more competition if you're looking for a 9-to-5 position like a clinical job. So you might be wondering, well, how many dietitians are there? In the US alone, there's about 32,000 dietitians who are actually working. I do mean employed dietitians. Now, according to CDR, there's about 100,000 registered dietitians, but again, only 32,000 of them are registered as employed. And you might know, because I say this all the time, only 8% of the 32,000 that are registered as employed are self-employed. So very few dietitians have their own business. And what that means is that it's hard to find peers and friends and people who are on the same path as you when it comes to building your private practice. And let's be honest, it can feel pretty lonely when you're trying to create an additional revenue stream and you're the only person that's doing it. And that's a big reason why I created Dietitian Boss. My company is not just a proprietary process that you can follow to start and grow your online business, but it's also a community of other like-minded practitioners that might have different areas of interest and different specialties and live in different parts of the world with different cultures and experiences, but the common thread is that we all want to increase our flexibility and increase our income opportunities by leveraging the internet to make money. So when it comes to the pros and cons of being a registered dietitian, a big pro is that the field is very interesting, and you might know nutrition is always updating and it's really a robust topic. So there's so many areas in the field of nutritional science that one can specialize in. And so it's a very exciting industry. I'd say the biggest con in dietetics is that the barrier to enter is extremely high. The education required to become eligible to sit in for a dietitian exam is crazy. So we're required to have our master's degree in 2024, and we have to complete an unpaid dietetic internship that's like full-time work for about a year. Some are compressed a little less than that. And you have to have your master's degree, dietetic internship, undergrad, and it could be anywhere around 80 grand to complete your schooling. And it's a lot of years with higher education and this non-paid internship to then sit in and pay for an exam to then go into a field where the baseline pay is $60,000. So there's a real big gap between the amount of money that we pay to become a dietitian and the amount of money that we earn in the actual field, unless if we start our own business, right? Because the income opportunities are infinite once you become your own boss. So you might be wondering, like, can dietitians make a lot of money? And I guess it depends on what you think a lot is. So I went ahead and did some research on that. So hang tight. I'll explain those numbers in a minute. Now, you might know that the average salary for a dietitian sits around $63,000. I didn't make that up. That's from the Statistics of Labor and Bureau. Okay, but you might also know that a lot of dietitians are paid far less than that. So dietitians are not known as money makers, especially when it comes to those who work a 9-to-5 job. So I would say we are not well paid. I would say we're an underpaid career. So when it comes to annual salary and how much is a good salary, you might not have thought about this before, and I understand that. So I want to share with you some of the facts that I've uncovered in some of the research and some of my experience. So a Princeton study actually showed that for emotional well-being, $75,000 would be the minimum required salary that would help you achieve emotional well-being. So if $75,000 is what's seen as the average, and dietitians are making on average about $13,000 less than what is considered the minimum salary for emotional happiness. So if you want to achieve that minimum salary for emotional happiness, your best bet would be to start a side business or to create a full-time private practice where you can have the ability to set your own rules and be your own boss. Now, you might know if you watch our videos and if you follow us on social media at All Podcast, Instagram, even here on YouTube, that I talk about the top 10% earners in dietetics. And those are the dietitians that are private practice owners. So this is from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Salary and Compensation Guide that shows that the top 10% of earners in dietetics do make $100,000 and they are private practice operators. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking to make $100,000 a year or more, which a lot of you want to do, and that definitely motivated me to start this business. But, we've got an issue because if only 8% of dietitians have their own business, right, they're registered as business owners, yet the top 10% are making $100,000, there's a huge gap or opportunity for us dietitians to start our business so that we can have the chance to be top earners in our field. Some of the other issues I haven't discussed as much in the past, I'll try to explain this in the most neutral way possible, and that's like who funds the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So the world's largest organization of nutrition and dietetics professionals is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. The Academy's new vision is endorsed by its board of directors, and their new vision is a world where all people thrive through the transformative power of food and nutrition, with a mission to accelerate improvements in global health and well-being through food and nutrition. Keep in mind that the association is funded by a number of multinationals, pharmaceutical companies, and the food industry lobbying groups such as the National Confectioners Association. So that's just something to keep in mind. So it is an inherent conflict of interest because food companies are sponsoring the world's largest governing body that supports food and nutrition professionals. So it's definitely something to consider. Now, you might be wondering about active membership in the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and the membership does include registered dietitians, nutritionists, dietetic technicians, students, and other holding bachelorette and advanced degrees in nutrition and dietetics. Now, to provide members with career strategies that will enable them to prosper in the future, the Academy activities do involve a strategic plan. So the percentage of dietitians that are female includes 92%. So the industry of dietetics is largely women and largely white women. So we have an inherent lack of diversity, which I'm sure you're aware of that. There's a lot of advocacy around diversity, and we try to really talk about this topic because it's super important in order to help the industry. We're definitely going to need to focus on diversity and diversification efforts. So it's just something to be aware of when we know the statistics of who are dietitians, and they are largely white women. You might be wondering, well, what percentage of dietitians are Black? And what does that look like? What are those stats? And you might be surprised to hear that less than 3% of registered dietitians are Black, with over 80% being white, which means that most of the nutritional information that gets disseminated across mainstream and social media does come from white practitioners. And so again, that means that there's a lack of diversity in the field. And so that's not great. So we want to be aware of advocating for diverse efforts. And then you might be wondering what percentage of registered dietitians are people of color, right? Because all these statistics are helpful for us to be aware of. And this is all made public on CDR. So you can find all this information on the internet. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics says that people of color make up less than 13% of registered dietitians in the United States. And again, just to double down on the last statement that I had made, people of color, they often might feel like they can't get help or they don't feel as comfortable if they don't feel or see that people who they resonate with are releasing information, so they might not feel supported given certain issues. That's something to keep in mind. And then you might be wondering, well, why is diversity important in dietetics? And I remember this from all my schooling. I took several courses on food and nutrition in grad school from the food studies department. Culture and ethnicity are intertwined with food. And food connects people to their childhood, their family, and their cultural traditions. And because of the lack of diversity in dietetics, health and nutrition resources are not always inclusive. I think a lot of us are very aware of that, and there's a lot of initiatives made to change that, but it's definitely still an issue. So if you're wondering, well, how can we improve the diversity in dietetics or the lack of diversity in dietetics? There are many ways that we can make improvements and be aware. And so there's a list of resources that we can go ahead and put in the description box. And I'll say that there's 3 main things. We can talk about it, and bringing awareness is a good start. We can also make nutrition information accessible. So we want to use social media to create free content. And get educated and make sure that you're asking questions, you're reading, you're studying, you're taking courses, you're engaging in conversations, right? And I have a free podcast with several episodes where we're discussing these important topics so that you can start to join the conversation and make sure that you're aware of some of these topics and what they've meant over the years. And then that brings us to the anti-diet culture topic. So if you're wondering, what does that mean? Because it's still a topic that a lot of us don't have enough education about. And it's a movement that promotes overall well-being rather than size reduction. And it's a statement that people deserve to exist and they don't have to engage in weight loss attempts to earn respect. And the movement targets the diet industry and culture at large, not somebody specifically. And science backs the theories up in this movement. And many of our clients adopt this approach effectively. And I totally get where they're coming from. And here at Dietitian Boss, we accept and welcome diverse opinions and perspectives. We actually really enjoy that. And the issue with this topic is that learning acceptance of diverse opinions and perspectives and backgrounds is really important for personal and professional development. And as dietitians supporting one another, no matter our belief system, it helps consumers get the information that meets their unique needs. And I believe that we all are responsible and need to promote diverse thoughts and not attack one another on the internet, even if we don't agree with somebody else's perspective. And so maybe you're wondering what weight neutrality means, because that's can be a part of this topic as well. And this often takes the form of creating a weight neutral space that includes a no diet or no weight loss talk and no negative body talk and no fashion magazines or recommendations of weight loss as a cure for physical health, any issues or stigma, etc. And most consumers do not understand this yet. It's an important topic, but it's still something a lot of people are learning. And so that brings us to the topic of, do dietitians need to be skinny? Which just feels silly me even saying it, because unfortunately the field of dietetics is very homogenous. 80% of dietitians or more are white, and 92% identify as a woman. And there aren't statistics on body size, but it's safe to say that a lot of dietitians are thin. And we're definitely not going to show any photos or call anybody out, because here at Dietitian Boss, we accept all body shapes and sizes, and we don't ostracize people for their shape or their size or their beliefs. And I believe, and we believe here in this company, that a diversity of size and beliefs and ethnicity is a good thing. And we welcome differences. And we do not exclude anybody based on belief or body size. We don't do that for our clients, and we don't do that for our staff. And we also don't exclude based on gender or gender expression. So the issue with this topic is that dietitians who are thin, they face thin shaming. And those who live in a larger body are judged. And it's a very harsh climate for professionals who are faced with healthcare weight stigma. And for practitioners, I suggest therapy and reflections and peer groups can be helpful as well. And gaining that acceptance and understanding in conversations can be really helpful. And for those of you in practice, inclusive hiring practices are really important to help support diversity. And that's also great role modeling for your peers. And I hope that we can do that for you as well. So now you might be wondering, okay, we talked about skinny, but what about fat? Can dietitians be fat? Of course, dietitians can be fat the same way that they can be tall or short, and they can have, long hair or red hair, blonde or black hair or blue hair. These characteristics have nothing to do with how skilled a dietitian is. And the issue again is that there's a lot of shame and stigma and bias about how somebody should look or act or be. And then finally, you might be wondering, well, what's body affirming? Because we talked about weight neutrality, we talked about stigma, and body affirming is a form of body mindfulness. And affirming is statements that you repeat over and over again in an attempt to change your unconscious beliefs, which is a really powerful practice. So if you pick a few that you like and you look in the mirror, you can repeat those several times a day. And then the issue is that many of us, practitioners included and consumers, are not aware of our own bias and the bias of others. And that takes a lot of maturity and introspection. And as business owners, as dietitian bosses, it's our responsibility to role model the values that we hold in our business. And for us here at Dietitian Boss, we advocate diversity and we absolutely respect nutrition philosophies that we don't ourselves employ. And we want to make sure that we say that and we share that and we're constantly role modeling that. So I just want to state that implicit and explicit bias are absolutely everywhere. So implicit meaning that you're unaware, like you're not promoting women and families. And explicit would be directly aware, like women with mothers aren't serious about their research, right? Those are examples. And as practitioners, the more aware that we are, the more that we can role model for our peers and our audience. And if you want a full video on implicit and explicit bias, comment below and I can, see about coming up with something related to that because it's such an important topic for your growth and development as a dietitian in private practice. Being a dietitian business owner requires a lot of self-reflection and a lot of growth. And our field definitely has problems and we have responsibilities within our field to look at our own bias. And the only way that we can make a step forward is reflecting on our own bias and accepting others' belief systems, even if those belief systems do not correlate with our own. We can also not engage directly in calling out a person on the internet. That's one step. And the change starts with reflecting on our own behaviors. The change starts with reflecting on our own behaviors. Now, if you want more videos related to this topic specifically or anything I discussed in today's video, comment below and let me know so I can consider another topic that will help inspire you to make progress in your private practice. Now, if you're interested in learning about the day in the life of a dietitian in private practice, I want you to watch this next video listed below.